Hello. I'm not really sure how to start. It is my very first long form video on YouTube, so please be kind. If you hear any background noises, no, you don't. My house is very loud, so just ignore it.
Today I wanted to show more love to my OC Eden, who I've had since 11 years old. And though I've had him for quite some time now, I know almost nothing about him. I mean, I can explain his role in the story and how he interacts with the main character, but if anybody asked me to describe him as a person, I wouldn't be able to do it without bringing up the protagonist. So I was hoping I could use this video to establish his basic character and personality. And if you've been paying attention, you can see that I've been on Pinterest working on creating a collage/mood board for him. I'm using Pinterest because that's what I've been using to create all of my character mood boards, but if you have any suggestions for better ways to create character mood boards, I would love the help. So here I'll be piecing together the basic parts of his design, like his hair, his wings, his environment, and his palette, which I will go in depth about later on. I also wanted to use one of those get-to-know-your-character sheets to answer basic questions about him, and ensure that I at least know the simpler things like his personality and how he reacts in certain situations. I will say the reason I didn't have much about him is because he had been just one of those characters in my imagination. And only recently did I want to put him on paper, or in this case, my iPad. I guess it's kind of a skill issue on my part. I would have loved to go in depth when it comes to his story, but I'm afraid I'll just end up yapping for a really long time. So now, without further ado, I will be answering the questions. Question 1. What is your character's name? My character's name is Eden, which means great garden in this story. I haven't really established the full reasoning for his name, but I'm sure I'll do it later. Next question is, where is he from? Eden was born to an avian civilization hidden among the forests of a place which I have not named yet. What accent or language do they speak in? In my mind, this specific character would speak Aramaic. I don't know if I pronounced that right. I'm sorry if I didn't. But to put it quite plainly, there is not that much Western representation in this story, so all of the characters pretty much have accents. I did write this story in English due to the fact that that's kind of the only language that I speak fluently. Next question is, what are his flaws? Due to the loss of his father, and yes, his daddy's dead. Sorry. Eden has a pretty unhealthy attachment style, whether it's with humans or animals. He is to be chief, so he has a role to protect, but even small things like hunting make him nauseous. I would say he is very empathetic and has a deep connection with animals and nature in itself. What is he good at? Due to his pretty strong eyesight, Eden has been appointed tribe scout. He has one of the largest wingspans, which makes him the best soarer. You know, like when birds fly without flapping their wings. Yeah, that.
Note to self, there's a ton of things I wish I would have researched.
What are his pet peeves? I would say perhaps the reason he prefers scouting at night is because he hates the sound of snoring. Next question. What is something he does not respect? For that, I would say unnecessary death or unnecessary violence is something that he cannot handle. Ooh, would he survive in a forest? Considering the fact that he was raised in a forest, I would say yes. And he also does prefer being alone with his thoughts, so I think he'd enjoy it. Or, in his case, he enjoys being alone in the forest. Is he social with others? Though he might not enjoy being around people for too long, I would say he is otherwise polite and tries his best to make you feel listened to, but also he has to do that because he's chief. So, yeah. What is his deepest, darkest secret? Eden isn't really a dark character, so this one's kind of cutesy. So basically, he has a cave behind a waterfall where he hides trinkets that he keeps, which he retrieves from the outer world where he is not supposed to be. So it's stuff like swords that he picks up from battlefields after wars, and lost jewelry, sometimes even stealing carrier pigeons and snooping in on love letters from people in the outer world, which he should not have. Eavesdropping is basically how he keeps himself entertained. What is his guilty pleasure? Well, for this question, I didn't know if they meant food-wise or just in general. So for this one, I'd have to say, when it comes to food, plums from the spiritual tree that they eat from only during special events. So sometimes he'll sneak a few extra and pray that he doesn't get in trouble. And in general, I said he loves when people play with his hair or brush his hair or braid it, just anything to do with his hair being taken care of. How does your character show their emotions? This one's very simple, through very innocent displays of physical touch. Touch? No, touch. Like head pats and playful wrestling. How does he react when proven wrong? He may at first be a little stunned due to the fact that he is completely self-unaware, but after he would do his best to fix what he had done wrong. How does he mourn? According to his culture, when losing someone of importance, both physically and spiritually, one cuts their hair to symbolize their loss. Hair in this story is very important. I wish I could go more in depth about it, but then I don't want to go on a whole rampage, so. Does he gossip? Nope, but he does love hearing it. Would he be able to forgive himself if he did something bad or wrong? I didn't know exactly how to answer this, so I just used an example from the story, in which he loses Ophelia, the protagonist, after being forced to send her home
due to their migration.
He felt immense guilt after knowing that he had handed one of his closest friends to his mortal enemy, causing him to self-isolate. Does he care about himself more than he cares about others? Like I'd mentioned before, Eden isn't really self-aware, so he tends to put everybody else a little higher than himself. But he firmly believes that caring for himself means caring for others most.
Quick side tangent before I go on to the next question. I did believe that I would be done with the questions by the time I was done drawing this, but unfortunately, I draw slower than I thought I did, so, yep. Hell, I'm not even done with the line art. My goodness.
Back to the questions, I guess. How would other characters describe him? His mother would describe him as kind, yet very timid, also expressing how she wishes he went out of his bubble more and expressed his emotions more. His sisters would describe him as very secretive and closed off, which would make them want him to open up a little bit more. The protagonist would describe him as a brave, kind-hearted person who she has deep respect for. And his people would describe him as a quiet, giving, and caring soul, but they take pity on him due to the impact that his father's death had on him as a child. How would he describe himself? Eden takes great pride in his love for nature and the creatures around him, and the way nature has its way of contributing to each of its parts. Everything has a give, everything has a take, there's always a time for living, and there's always a time for death. And unfortunately, those were the last questions. So now I guess I'm just gonna yap until it's over. Yay! I do wish I did start by describing my process or taking you guys through my process. But in the beginning, I took a sketch from my sketchbook because I prefer doing sketchwork on paper instead of the iPad because I like the feel of paper. And then just copying it to my iPad on IBIS Paint. I think I already showed the settings that I use to be able to do that. But the entire process basically makes it way easier for me to do line art without fighting my iPad screen. I also love the fact that this process allows me to have both a traditional and digital version of the paintings that I make, which is pretty cool. I also thought that I mentioned that all the drawings that you see being made right now, I do post the final pieces on my Instagram, maybe TikTok, but I just started my TikTok account, so there's really nobody there. It's kind of crickets. But if you're interested in seeing my final pieces, you can go check me out on Instagram. I will have my account linked below. I just realized that I didn't actually write a script long enough for this video, so I might just have to freestyle. But since this is one of my first videos, perhaps I'll just introduce myself. So hello, I'm Ole. I am both a digital and traditional illustrator. I do mostly OC art. I love making OCs. I have been making OCs since I was 8 years old. And I will say I'm pretty obsessed with original character writing and small character projects, whether they're mine or a mutual's. My art style does vary depending on my mood, honestly. Sometimes it can be very colorful, bright, bubbly, and basically like a unicorn farted on my iPad, or IBIS Paint pages, even sketchbook pages, though I do prefer doing my more colorful art traditionally because that's the color palette that I have. I don't really have an option to do dull art because most of my art supplies are freaking bright. For the longest time, I had been just on Instagram, and I'd been posting there since 2022. By the way, just hit 1K, and I'm so proud! Yay! That was literally so fun because OC artists, it's rough out here. It's rough to be an OC artist. Nobody. And I hate making reels. Side tangent. I just hate making reels. I hate making short form content. Even my shorts are kind of cringe because I do not have a steady hand. And I hate fighting tripods. So I figured, you know what? Let me just post my digital art on long form YouTube because it would be easier. But I'm happy to say that I'm finally getting a little bit of recognition up on Instagram, so I'm really grateful. Truly. Also, back to talking about Eden. He has gone through so many changes. The only thing that hasn't changed about him is the fact that he has that white strand on his hair and wings. And also, fun fact, he was one of my very first posts on Instagram, so I think it's kind of cute how he's my very first post on YouTube. So yeah,
so cute.
I'd also like to admit that I barely draw the main character of this story. I've only drawn her 4 times, 1 of them being digital, 3 of them being traditional. Maybe I might be lying. I don't even know. I haven't fully designed her. Yeah, the only thing I know about her is her story. And I can kind of tell you her personality, but I don't know how to do it properly. She's kind of scattered. Hopefully I will start drawing the characters more, but the thing is, I have so many OCs, and I mean so many OCs that I don't even know if I'll have time for them. I have a band AU, I have a school AU, 3 to 4 sci-fi AUs because I absolutely love sci-fi. I honestly would love to touch on their story, but right now I'm at a point where I feel like it's kind of cliche, and I don't like when my art or my stories look like everybody else's stories. And hopefully in my next video, which I pray is not as long as this one, I will work on actually designing the characters and working on stuff like character turnarounds, because I struggle from something called not same face syndrome, which means every time I draw a specific character of mine, because I only ever do OC art, they look like 12 different people. I don't know why, I don't know how. I wish I could draw my characters to look the same or look like themselves every time. But yeah, that's kind of something I'm working on. Also, you learn as you go, so perhaps I should stop being so hard on myself. But if you've gotten to this point of the video and you're actually interested in this character and would like to see more about him, you can comment a moon. Yeah. Comment a moon, and I will try my best to make a video creating a character sheet for him, building off of the information that I learned today, because it was also an opportunity for me to learn about this character, because when I say I knew absolutely nothing, I knew absolutely nothing other than the fact that he had wings and long hair and was friends with the protagonist. And hopefully I'll design the protagonist as well, because though she is the main character, she has gotten absolutely almost no attention whatsoever, which is kind of sad. I feel really bad. Anyways, if you've gotten to this point of the video, thank you so much for watching, and here are here's the final piece and a bit of extra work that I did. Hope you have an amazing day, and goodbye.